Hello, guys. Can everybody hear me? Yes, no,
Yes, yes.
beautiful. Okay, guys, sorry for being late. I was interviewing an agent and it took a little longer than expected. But anyway, let's get right into it. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now in a second. Today's training, it's all about the listing agreements. I'm going to teach you guys exactly how to fill it out and how to present it to your seller, which is very important. You do not want to be guessing or not knowing what you're talking about when you're presenting this document. Remember, when you're presenting a listing agreement, you are asking for them to pay you 6%. So if they smell that you don't know what you're talking about, it might not go so good. All right. So I'm going to teach you the way I present it, the way I fill it out. Everybody has their own way, but I find that my way is easier, is simple, and it's something that you guys can practice on your own and eventually get better at it. I recommend that you get a listing agreement, get sticky notes, and for every paragraph, hello? Let me mute Janitza. There you go. Okay, so and practice it. Remember that practice makes perfect, and perfect practice makes perfect. So make sure you're when you're home or in your office, pick someone to role play and make your own notes so that way you know how to explain paragraph per paragraph in the listing agreement and you do not get stuck with your client. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen now. If you guys have any questions, guys, please just feel free to write it in the chat, but I'm going to be answering all questions at the end, okay? Okay, so 1 second. All right, cool. Can everyone see this? Can somebody tell me yes or no? You can unmute.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Awesome. So let me first of all go to a blank document. So this is transaction desk. Like I know it's the system we use, but I know a lot of you use for simplicity. I want to show you exactly how to do it here in transaction. This is super simple and easy to use. So I wasn't planning on doing this, but now that I'm seeing transaction desk right in front of me, I want to take advantage and open a brand new transaction with you guys as a test so you guys see how that looks like, okay? So let me first of all go home. Right. So when you log into transaction desk, this is the first thing you see. So now you have a client, you wanna build a listing presentation with them, and you wanna create a transaction for them because obviously that's going to be your transaction. You wanna keep it organized in one place. So the first thing you're gonna do is go to this little house here. So you can either create a transaction from the dashboard by clicking here, transactions, or you can just go to a little house where you can see all your transactions in one place, right? And then to add, all you got to do is click this plus button, right? So here, you may want to put, transaction for, let's put my name for now. And then I always like putting the address. You guys don't have to. This is you name your transaction however you like. Well, this is the way I do it. So I put transaction for my client's name, and then I put the address. Okay. So then template. What is template? Template is the checklist you're going to need to get paid. So or to activate a listing. In this case, we're doing a listing. So the checklist we're going to pick is going to be wait. Sale. Where are you? Sales residential. This is the one you're going to pick. Actually, no. Okay, sorry, this one, listing for sale, residential. Sorry, I'm gonna sound bougie right now, but my admin is the one that does this. So it's been a while. So, but I taught her. So let me see if I can figure out while I teach you guys. So this is the one you're gonna pick, listing for sale, residential. Obviously, there's different ones. So if you have a condo, there's one for a condo and this one for a lease as well. So in this case, you wanna click residential. Let's say it's a house. And if since you're opening a listing, this you're gonna leave empty because you don't have an MLS number yet. Okay. And then you're the listing agent and use Wizard, leave it checked. Okay, then you're gonna click create. Awesome. So now in this page, you're gonna have 5 steps. So the first step is to fill out the property information. So we're gonna do that now. So 1, 2, 3, Southwest 42nd Court, let's say. I would put Miami. County, we're gonna put Miami-Dade. State, we're gonna put Florida. And zip code, let's say we're gonna put 23185, right? I don't need to put any of the rest. I don't need to put subdivision name, lot number. I don't need to put any of that, okay? Type of property here, you wanna click residential, and then you don't have anything else. You don't have the MLS number. You do not need the year that it was built. One thing that you will need is the legal description. I wanna show you exactly where you're gonna find that. So the legal description, if it's in Miami-Dade County, you can either find it in IMAP, or you can find it in Miami-Dade, in property search Miami-Dade. And I'm gonna show you how that looks like. Let's just put a random address. Crap, sorry guys. So here, I'm gonna put my own. Third. All right, so here we're gonna go ahead and get the legal descriptions. Now the legal description is right here. You see this full legal description? All you're gonna do is just copy the whole entire thing. And then you're gonna go back to transaction desk and you're gonna paste it in legal description. That's it, copy and paste. You don't need anything else. I mean, you can put list price, but that won't matter when it comes to populating into the contract, but you can put it, maybe let's say 400,000. So that way you can keep track of how much, that's not 400,000. Okay, there you go. You want to put 400,000 so you can keep track of how much you listed the property for. And that's it. That's all you need to do here. All right. Then you click next. If you read here, transaction dates, none of these dates apply at the moment. It's asking you about the list date, expiration date, offer date, closing date, commitment date. You don't have a contract yet. And remember, guys, you can use the same transaction that you use for your listing. And then once you receive an offer, you can keep everything within that transaction. At the end, since you pick the checklist of listing, at the end when you're going to get paid, you're going to pick another checklist, so you can have several checklists per transaction, and you're going to click the checklist that is closed sale. So that way it's going to ask you for different documents for you to get paid. Okay, so in here you leave empty, you don't touch anything. Now let's click next. Okay, so next it's going to add you automatically. So you're going to have your name and the office that you are in. You leave that just like that. Now you obviously want to add your client, because either you're going to send it electronically, but it's also going to populate in the contract automatically. So let's just create a random contact. You want to pick here as seller. Where are you? Seller right here. And then let's just create a name. Let's put myself again. And then you always want to put an email if you have one, so that way you can send them the document electronically for him to sign if that's what you prefer. All right, super cool. So you click save and then you click next. You don't need anything else here. Okay, forms. Remember, for a listing presentation or to get a listing signed, you're going to need 2 forms. You're going to need, well, it depends on what you want to do. If you want to put the property coming soon, you need a different form for that. You need to get it signed at the listing presentation, because you need to send it to the MLS for them to authorize your coming soon listing. Number one. Number two, you need the listing agreement, obviously, which we're gonna cover today, and you're gonna need the seller's disclosure. Okay, so let's add those forms now. So the first form we're gonna add is gonna be listing agreement. Okay, you have two different types of listing agreements. You're gonna have the transaction broker and the single agent listing agreement. Now, please unmute yourself if you know the difference. What's the difference between single agency and transaction broker? Can someone explain it to me?
Yeah, so this is Tyler. So yeah, so transaction broker, it's literally you are representing the transaction. You're not representing either party, buyer or seller. Single agency, you're acting as the fiduciary to the seller. So you're all their best interest.
Beautiful. You're 100% correct, Tyler. Now, that's the proper way to say it, guys. Tyler was very political. The dumb way to say it is transaction broker is representing both sides, double dipping in the deal. And a single agency, you have a fiduciary relationship to your client, which is a seller. So you only represent the seller in that case. Okay. Now, I always use a transaction broker. Why? Because us as agents, as listing agents, we always try to double dip the deal to get more commission. All right. So I get that transaction broker agreement signed. Number one, your seller won't know what that means. And number two, he won't know the difference. He wouldn't even know that's a single agent listing agreement. He wouldn't even know he exists. You know what I mean? So why would I even present that one? So automatically, I want you to forget about the single agent listing agreement. I want you to always go to the one that says exclusive right of sale, listing agreement, consent to transaction broker. You are always 100% going to pick that one. Okay? So boom. Now we have to get the seller disclosure. This is a residential property. So we're going to pick residential, right? If it's a condo, there's a different one for that. So we're going to click add. Now you have this little basket here, which tell you how many contracts you're going to be adding. So we have 2 here, and we're going to click add. And that's it. Then you click next. Documents, you leave that empty. You don't touch that right now. You'll need it in the future, but for right now you don't. And then you click done. This means that your transaction has been created, and now you can start filling up the agreement. Before I continue, does anyone have any questions about this part?
I have a quick question. I just want to know, is this exactly the same as dot loop? So should I replace dot loop for this?
I would. Let me explain to you why, Jennifer. Because you need this system to get paid. So if you have dot loop that is for electronic signature, you eventually are going to have to download those documents from dot loop and input them into transaction desk so you can get paid. So why not just learn this system and do everything from there?
I agree. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else, guys? Awesome. Let's keep going. So now to find the form, so you're going to have different tabs here in the right. Okay, you can have you're going to have the dashboard, which is where we're at right now. You're going to have details, which is where we filled out the property information, contacts, and forms. Let's go to forms so we can start. So I can teach you how to fill this out. So let's go into the listing agreement. For the seller disclosure, I'm not going to explain it today. If you guys have the time, go ahead and read it. But I typically leave that with my client. And it's just them telling you the description or the condition of the property to their knowledge from up to that point, up to the point that you signed that agreement. Okay. So somebody's driving and is unmuted. I hear a car. It's my boy Mo.
My bad, brother.
No problem, man. So okay, so right. So we have here the seller's name. You see how it populates automatically, guys? You don't have to do anything about that. And remember, I told you about the legal description. Look at it right there. And the address of the property. It's all there, right? So now you want to change this. You want to always put Lifestyle International Realty. I'll put this in, sorry. Lifestyle International. So as you guys can see, I mean, if you told me, oh, Pablo, this system sucks, it's not the same. Well, it's just exactly the same as dot loop and for simplicity. I mean, it's exactly the same. So again, if it goes back to that, I will kind of just learn how to use the system so that way I can just do everything from one place. So there you go, Lifestyle International Realty. And I always like putting my name here. Believe it or not, I had a client tell me why it wasn't my name on the top, that he wanted to do a contract with me and not Lifestyle International Realty. And I had to explain to them, hey, listen, you're doing an agreement with Lifestyle. It's a listing for Lifestyle International Realty. I'm just your representative, right? So I put Lifestyle International Realty and then I put my name just in case, you know, I don't want to get that question again and just avoid the conversation, you know? It doesn't hurt anybody. Okay, so when I tell you in this training, when I tell you lines, these are the lines, 1, 2, 3, 4. When I tell you paragraphs, I'm talking about this here. So paragraph 1, paragraph 2, and paragraph 3. Now a little trick and a little guidance. If you've seen the agreement, and I believe, Omi, you taught me this. I did not know this. I remember like it was yesterday. You taught me in Miami Lakes. This agreement, and let me know if you remember, Omi.
I do.
Every, like this lines here, like line number 2, number 3, number 6, and 13. You see how they have asterisks? Okay, so what that means is that those are important. Those you have to fill out. So that's a little bit of a guidance in the case you get stuck in the middle of filling out a listing agreement. So if it has an asterisk, it's important. So read it. All right. So let's go to line number 1 and 3. It's only talking about the seller and the broker, Lifestyle International Realty. Paragraph number 1, it's talking about the term of the contract. So how long are you going to be in contract with the seller? I typically do a year. Okay. Now, how do I handle this when I'm presenting this to the seller? Because if you tell him a year, they might ask you, oh, so it's going to take you a year to sell my property? Not necessarily. So the way that I present this is that I say like this, okay, Mr. Seller. So in this section here, paragraph 1, we're talking about the term of our agreement. It's for a year, but don't you worry, because let me just put the date here. Oh crap, that's 2024, April. All right, so let's put 20. So this is how I present this part. So Mr. Seller, here is the term of our agreement. That's what paragraph 1 is for. However, I don't want you to worry, because let's head to this page of the contract and let's go to this page here, to paragraph 11. It's talking about early termination. If I don't do what I promised you, Mr. Seller, everything that I promised you in this meeting to sell your property, if I don't do exactly that, you have the freedom to fire me at any time, and I will charge you $0 to cancel that agreement. Now, that's just me. If you guys feel like you want to charge something, go ahead. I know there are a lot of agents that charge between $500 to $1,000 and they get no rebuttal. So it's up to you. I don't charge anything. And I've never had a listing agreement canceled, and I've never had somebody cancel me unless their plans change. If their plans change, if they don't want to sell anymore for any reason whatsoever, that's different. You know, you want to give them a break. I'm pretty sure this is just the way I am and the way that I do business. Even if the contract says $500 and my seller had, let's say, God forbid, a death in the family, and they have to cancel the sale, I'm not going to charge them anything. It's just being human, you know? So I tell them the term for a year, but then I follow it up by telling them they can fire me at any time. So automatically.
Oh no. No,
What?
really. No.
Hello. Let me just mute everybody. Sorry, guys. All right, so that's how I handle that, and typically I don't get any rebuttal with the dates. Now let's talk about paragraph number 2. So paragraph number 2 is talking about the property address and the legal description of the property. Okay, so that's what it's talking about. Personal property, including appliances. Here's where you want to put if the seller wants to take anything that's attached to the property, like a chandelier or a lamp or something like that. If they want to take the fridge or the stove or anything like that, you want to name it here. You are going to put that again in the as is, so that way everybody's clear and the buyers are clear. But you also want to name it here so you know exactly what it is that the seller wants to take. Occupancy, line number 20. It's talking about if the tenant is, if the property is occupied by a tenant or not. Let's say that you're representing the owner and it's not occupied by a tenant. So you're going to click this one. If it's the other one, you're going to click this one and you're going to put the date that the lease expires. If they're in a month to month, you're going to write that month to month. Okay. So in this case, it's not occupied by a tenant, so I don't have to put anything there. My list price is 400,000. Correction. Remember that we put 400,000 in one of the tabs. It did populate automatically, so do put it. Okay, so according to the price, a rule of thumb, click all. Unless you know for a fact they don't accept FHA or VA. But I always click them all because it doesn't matter anyway. Once you figure out that they don't accept FHA, you can put in the MLS that they don't accept FHA. It's that simple. This is not going to really change anything. But the way that you can explain this, okay, so Mr. Seller, paragraph number 3 is talking about how much we're going to list the property for and what type of financing the buyer can come in to buy your home, including cash. Okay. Paragraph number 4, number 5. So number 4 is talking about the obligation of the broker. So my obligation towards you, being honest, presenting every single property, treating the property like it's my own. So you want to say things like that to make the seller feel, safe. And paragraph number 5 is only talking about them authorizing you the seller authorizing you to list it in the MLS. Okay, that's all it's saying here. As you can see, I don't read verbatim. That's why I say make sticky notes for every single paragraph and create yourself a sentence or two so you can explain it fairly quickly. Okay, now you gotta read it. You gotta know what you're talking about, because if they ask you, if they put, okay, so what does seller authorized broker to report to the MLS, this listing information and price, like you wanna make sure, I mean, that's self-explanatory, but you wanna make sure that if they single anything out of that contract, you're able to explain it, okay? Now, before I continue to the next page, any questions, guys? You can feel free to unmute yourself. Awesome. That means I'm going good.
Pablo.
Yeah.
Question: is this recorded? Because I was driving in the first page. Now I'm getting to the office.
Yeah, man. I think it is recorded. Let me see.
It is recorded.
Yeah, it is recording.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
No problem. All right. So now let's talk about paragraph number 6. Keep in mind that if you are going to wet sign this and not send it electronically, this contract is not executed until your seller's initials are here. They have to initial this part here. It's weird because there's no asterisk, as you can see. Actually, there is on 60. This whole thing is for the seller to initial. So make sure that they do. Paragraph number 6 is only talking about marketing. So here, the way I explain this is, okay, Mr. Seller, paragraph number 6 is talking about what we spoke previously. Me making you a website, doing Google, Facebook, Instagram ads to sell your property, listing in the MLS for sale signs, promoting the property in my different platforms of social media, like all of that. You give me authorization to do that. That's what paragraph 6 talks about. Okay. Paragraph number 7, this one right here, you don't got to do anything to it, but you want to say, you want to explain here, he's talking about FERPTA for foreigners, how the IRS keeps 50% of the sale after they close and return it the next year. You want to talk about, you know, the seller, this is your obligation towards me. You got to make sure you're honest. That's why I gave you a seller's disclosure. You got to let me know the condition of the property, not for me to disclose anything personal, but for me to defend you the right way. So be honest and, you know, and act with honesty moving forward, because we are doing a business transaction and it's a legal transaction at that. So we got to make sure we're both on the same page. That's the way I explained paragraph 7. I didn't read verbatim anything that's there. I just explained it in my own words. Okay. So there's that. Any questions about this part, guys? Should be very simple, very straightforward, very self-explanatory. Now we go to this paragraph, to this section, which is the most difficult for agents to understand. Now I'm going to try to explain it to you guys the best way that I can possibly can, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have to explain it a couple times, and that's okay. So paragraph number 8, it's talking about commission, all right? So in line 109, as you can see here, you're gonna put the total commission that your seller is going to pay. In this case, we're gonna put 6 as an example, okay? You don't gotta touch anything else. Some people put here, well, it doesn't have it here, but some people put like, oh, the transaction fee here or anything like that. I don't put any of that there. I just put 6% and that's it. Now, let's go to this section here, line 122. Line 122 is talking about your protection period. What is your protection period? So it has happened before that, let's say you do an open house for the property, and this is just the exact way of explaining to my client, by the way. Let's say that it happened that you do an open house and you get Ramon coming to the property, and Ramon loves the house, but Ramon has the mentality, and sorry for those Cubans, have the mentality of Cuba, but it's like, no, let me just come back when this guy's not here, and I want to try to see if the seller can fire the realtor, and I want to make a deal directly with the seller so I can go ahead and save money and the seller can save commission. You can't do that. That's why in the open house, you have a sign-in sheet so you can keep track of who came to your open house. Don't throw that paper away. Keep it. Because if that were to happen, let's say, you have to put here protection period days. I typically put 60, other people put 180 days. I put 2 months. So if Ramon went to the property after the open house ended, and then I hear from my client the next day, I received 15 offers, everything was great, and then my client fires me for no reason, I'm gonna be like, what happened? You know, so what I'm going to do as the agent that I am, I'm going to follow up with that property. I'm going to let him know, okay, perfect. Hey, no problem. Zero cancellation fee, like I promised you. Boom, 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 let's cancel. Then I'll follow up with the closing of that property. If on the deed shows the same name that I have on my signing sheet, you can sue that seller for your commission if it's within the 60 days. So if they got on the contract within those 60 days, that's your protection period. And I explain it exactly like that. I'll tell them, look, it's happened before. I'm not saying that this is you, but this is how I like to explain this so that way you understand what that 60 days is for. I typically get no rebuttal when I explain it like that. Because if your client is, you know, a reasonable person and does good business, he's going to understand. Line 127 is talking about the earnest money. So when a buyer sends you an offer, they're going to put an escrow deposit. That escrow deposit is divided between seller and the broker in the case that the buyer cannot close on that property after all contingencies have been met. Okay, so here you can leave it empty because it's already there. It says 50%, or you can just put 50%. Okay, now paragraph number 9, which is what agents have a lot of problems understanding. Question before I start explaining this part. In the MLS, in the bottom where it expresses commission, do you know do you know the commission that expressed there? I believe it says buyer's agent, transaction broker, and non-rep. Which one of those 3 is the listing agent's commission? Can somebody tell me?
None of them.
The transaction broker.
Okay, well, I got Jennifer transaction broker. Mo, you said none of those?
Well, if they're working as a transaction, then as a transaction broker, then yes, they're gonna get that portion of it. But from the listing side, on their side, nothing is reported on that listing.
Right on the money. Mo is 100% right. So a lot of people think that when they see the commission in the bottom, you can see the seller's agent's commission. Incorrect. Okay, so you only see the buyer's agent, transaction broker, which is typically the same, because me as a listing agent, I don't want you to know how much I'm getting paid as a transaction broker. So if I'm paying you 2%, or I'm paying you 3%, I don't want you to know that I'm getting paid 5 or 6 or whatever it is. I don't want you to know that. So I'll equal the commission. I'll put 3 and 3. It shouldn't be that way, but that's the way it is. That's the way we do it. And non-rep, that's the commission that you have agreed to pay to an agent that sends you a client from another state. So that's the referral fee that your client is going to pay that agent, okay? Which typically is 0. So this is the way that you put it in the contract. So out of this 6% is divided this way. And here you're going to put 3. Here you're going to put transaction broker, you're going to put 4. And here you're going to put 0. Or you're going to put here 5. Now, this part I'm going to read, right? So let's read it together. So it says, paragraph number 9. The buyer, I'm right here. I'm starting right here. The buyer's broker, even if compensated by seller or broker, may represent the interest of the buyer. Broker's office policy is to cooperate with all other brokers except when not in seller's best interest, and to offer compensation in the amount of 3% to a single agent for the buyer. So that's the buyer's agent. Let's continue. 5% of the purchase price to a transaction broker for the buyer. So that's a transaction broker. In this case, I would say, okay, Mr. Seller. So in the case that I find the buyer and there's no other realtor involved, I am going to give you 1% discount, but I'm going to give myself a 2% increase because I'm representing both sides. That's the way I would explain that. Then here it says 0% to a purchase price to a broker who has no brokerage relationship with the buyer. So somebody from somewhere else. Now, if somebody from California sends you a client and they're not involved in the transaction, they just sent you as a referral, you're going to pay them 30% or 25, whatever you agree with that person, of your 5%, because obviously at that moment, when you get that client, it becomes a transaction broker. You're representing both sides at that moment. But you got to keep in mind, you got to pay somebody else. But let's say if I were to put 1% here, how do I explain that? So that means that, that means that you're going to pay me my 3%, right? And you're going to pay that person as a referral 1%, right? That wouldn't make any sense to me because that means I'm losing money. So I just keep it 0 and I'll pay him 30% of my commission. Okay? I'll still get more money that way. What up, Tony?
What's up, killer?
Good. I'm glad to have you here, brother. I'm going to mute you for a second, okay?
Okay, no problem.
Okay, so there you go. Before I continue, I want to make sure every single person in this meeting is clear on this. Does everybody understand what I just explained?
Yes.
Yes. Great. That's good. Kevin, talk to me. No, Kevin's good. Okay, so everybody's clear on this part.
So Pablo, what you're saying is that most agents are making the confusion. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and ask my question. So what you're saying is that, can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly, Mo.
I hear a background. So what you're saying is that most agents are making the confusion in regards to the transaction brokerage, and they're putting, let's just say as your example, right? They're putting the 330. What you're supposed to do is do the 350 in your example. Is that accurate?
Correct. That's how we'll put it in the contract, Mo, but in the MLS, I would put it 333. That's how we do it. Because remember, the MLS for non-representation, the MLS doesn't allow you to put 0%. So I will put maybe 1%, or I will put 3%, just keep it all equal. Rule of thumb for me, I just keep it all equal. Okay. Now, if you want to be more political, you want to do things the right way would be is 3% to the buyer's agent, 5% transaction broker, and then you can put 1% to non-rep because you can't put 0, or you can put 0.1%, something like that. You know what I mean? But that would be the correct way to do it. But nobody does it like that. Everybody in our business just keeps it the same, because I don't want you to know how much I'm getting paid as a transaction broker. You know what I mean? Cool. So let's continue. Line 141 right here. This is your duty, your responsibility as a single agent. All you're gonna do here is put your name. Okay, that's all you're gonna do here. Now, if you read it, it's just simple stuff. It's telling you that, you know, deal with honesty, loyalty, confidentiality, with obedience, full disclosure, and blah, blah, blah. So pretty much, you know, be a good business person. Then as a transaction broker, you're gonna just put your name here. And this is where you explain, look, there's I gotta be very political. Yes, my fiduciary relationship is with the seller. However, if I'm representing both sides, I become a transaction broker, which means that if the buyer asks me, look, what offer should I send? I can't tell you. Look, the seller's not accepting anything than asking right now, or whatever. But you have to be very political and very transparent, and make sure that if you're gonna advise that person of something, you don't put anything in writing, so that way it can come back and bite you in the ass. You know, but try to be as political as you can possibly can, so that way you don't get yourself in trouble. Okay. So you guys put your name here, and please read this. It's just, you know, as you can see, you know, limited confidentiality, you know, everything just pretty much limited representation. So you're limited to the seller, you're limited to the buyer. Okay. We already spoke about paragraph 11, which is 0 cancellation fee. And then paragraph 12 and 13, all that is talking, guys, is that this is a binding contract, which means that it's a legal contract, which means that seller can sue realtor, realtors can sue seller, buyer can sue title company, anybody can sue anybody in the transaction. It's a legal contract. Okay, so that doesn't mean that we're gonna land there and you want to say something like this, and you can say something, I've never been sued, I'm never going to court for my client. It doesn't happen, but since it's a legal contract, it needs to be there. So that's what it talks about in paragraph 12 and 13. And then we continue, and the end is just signatures. Okay, now guys, this is where I'm gonna open the training for questions, so you guys can ask me whatever you want. It doesn't have to be necessarily about the listing agreement. It can be about something else too, but ask away. I'm going to open everybody to just ask me whatever they want. If you have a question, just unmute yourself.
I have a question. So as far as the brokerage transaction fee, how do you explain that to sellers, or like, even if you're working with like a renter, how do you like justify that, I guess?
Very good question, Lauren. So to rentals, you don't have a transaction fee, just so you know. You only have for sales. And this is the way I explain transaction fee. Now, the reason why I don't put it in my listing agreement, guys, a lot of people do, and you should. But I don't put it just because before I get to this point for my client to sign, I have already explained the transaction fee. I have a seller's net sheet where I explain every possible fee that the seller is going to have with the sale of the transaction, so they know exactly how much they're going to be netting bottom line. So I explain it way ahead of time, so I don't need to put it in this contract, okay? Because before I get the assets executed, I'm going to put it there. That's where I want it. You know what I mean? So how do I explain the transaction fee? Simple. The transaction fee is $395. The way I explain it is this, Mr. Seller, according to the DVPR, which is the people that regulate, real estate laws, we have to keep all your documents up to 5 years. All the closing documents up to 5 years. That takes space. So we charge every buyer and every seller a transaction fee so we can keep those documents to be okay with compliance. And that's $395. That doesn't go to me, that goes to my company. That's how I explained that, Lauren.
Thank you.
You're very
Pablo,
welcome.
Pablo, can I just make a correction on what you mentioned just now?
Of course.
So you got to, everybody needs to understand that the as-is contract is a binding contract between the buyer and the seller. I know 99.9% of realtors put the transaction fee on the contract, but in a court of law through attorneys, your transaction fee is irrelevant on an as-is contract. So just keep that in mind, that it's a binding contract between buyer and seller.
I'm sorry, can there's like noise in the background. I'm sorry. I can't hear you.
I don't know why.
I hear you well.
All right, then I'm just going to continue. So the as-is contract is a binding contract between buyer and seller, not between the realtor and the seller. So just keep that in mind. I know every agent does it, but it's actually inaccurate.
Okay, so great that you're telling me that more. So you guys can see, I'm just like you guys, so I can make mistakes. But you're absolutely right, Mo. So then absolutely you have to 100% put it in the listing agreement, because that's a contract between you and the seller. Mo is absolutely right. The as-is is a contract between the buyer and seller, not between the realtor and seller.
Now, let me just comment on that. So yeah, so it's always going to fall back on the actual listing agreement. Now, a lot of the agents where they put it is on the additional terms. There is a section under title that states buyer fees, and there is an other section. I have placed it there instead of the additional terms on the other, and I'll put $295 transaction fee to brokerage. I've been told it's you can't put it there either, but I still do it there as well. But I don't put it anymore on the additional terms, but just wanted to give some insight on that.
Cool. Thank you so much, Mo. Anybody else, guys?
Okay,
Yeah.
this is Jenny. So just to clarify then, so if it's a buyers that you're representing, then it is okay to put it in the as is under dues to the buyer. But if it's a listing agreement, you're representing the seller, then you should just put it on the listing agreement, not on the as is.
Mo, open yourself if we disagree, but I will put it in both. Yeah, so I will put it in both, Jennifer. I will put it in the listing agreement, and I will also put it in the assets, just in case.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt.
Right. Okay, cool. Anybody else?
Yes, this is Tyler. I got a question.
What's up, Tyler?
Yeah, so I want to go back to like the commission, the compensation. A couple of months ago, you were talking about that, and you mentioned something about basically the question is, how would the other side even know what you're being paid if they're never going to see this listing agreement, regardless of whatever they see in the MLS's cooperating compensation, if they're a transaction broker or whatever?
Okay, Tyler, give me 1 second, because I'm gonna put you in my headphones, because for some reason my my computer is not, the speaker's like messed up. So give me 1 second. Okay, Tyler, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. Ask me again.
Yeah. So the question is, regardless of like whatever the buyer's agent is seeing in the MLS as cooperating compensation, how would they even know what you're making like, let's just say you had a 7% or even higher, like listing agreement with the seller, like how would they even know what you're making if they're never going to see your listing agreement?
They do see it, sir, and they see it in the closing disclosure at the end.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
in the closing disclosure, Tyler, they put the commission for both brokers involved in the deal, and they're going to see that the commission is going to be a lot higher than yours.
So at the end, basically, yeah.
At the end. I mean, a lot lower than yours is what I meant to say. But yes, at the end. And at the end, it's, I mean, look, if you got the listing, you got the money. If you got the listing, you decide how much you want to pay the buyer's agent. Don't be that crappy realtor that only pays 1%. Don't do that. But it's always okay to give yourself a little bit more. So if you're charging the seller 6% and you want to do 2.5 and 3.5 to you, you can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, just make sure your seller is clear on that, and your seller is okay in doing that. You know what I mean? So it's really 100% up to you, you know?
Yeah. I asked that question because I'm newer, so that question it came up.
No, that's an awesome question. That's an awesome question, Tyler. But yeah, you definitely see the commission at the end of the CD, but when you see it, it's already too late.
Yeah.
Awesome, Tyler. Anybody else, guys?
For the as-is contracts, when you're hired, do you recommend putting the commission on the bottom, the last page, on the where you put your information? No, right? That looks tacky.
No, you can if you're representing the buyer. If you're representing the buyer, we'll put it just in case it doesn't hurt. But if you're the listing agent, it doesn't really matter whether your commission is the assist or not, because you're finished with the seller.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. Very good questions, guys. Anybody else? I want to make sure that I take care of everybody. We have a question in the chat, I think. Correct. Okay. Awesome, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and end the training here. Thank you very much, everybody that joined. I am going to be doing these at least once a month. So at least in my office, I'm going to try to see if I can go into other offices starting next month. But I do listing agreements. I'm focusing a lot in listings. So I do listing agreements, listing presentations, how to get listings, and I'm focusing a lot on that. So I'm gonna either make sure that I do it in our offices or I promote it in your other chats, so that way you guys can come to me in Kendall, and that way you guys can tie it all together. Okay, so thank you guys for joining. Have a wonderful Wednesday, and go kill it today. Blessings.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, guys.